Welcome to my channel and my first video on this YouTube channel. Sir, we don't do that. And this is my emotional support animal, Prince. Oh my goodness, no sir. As you can see, he's not cooperating. But yeah, this is my emotional support animal. He's like a year and 5 months and full of energy. Full of energy. Let me put him down. Okay. Well, welcome to my channel. This is a safe space for neurodivergent people, people with ADHD, autism, and ADHD. I have just been diagnosed with autism at the age of, you might as well say 53, because I'll be 53 July the 27th. So it's currently June, early part of June. So on this channel, I wanted to discuss navigating undiagnosed autism for so many years, being labeled as aggressive, particularly as a woman of color. I am Afro-Native American. I don't like the term Afro-Native American because nobody else gets a prefix before their indigenous labeling, but I utilize the verbiage because a lot of people understand the verbiage, not because I necessarily like the verbiage. It's one of those social things that as an autistic person, I don't understand the purpose of, but I will utilize if the majority of people understand the language. So on this channel, nothing will be perfect. Everything will be imperfect. It took a while for me to get to this point, to even want to be in front of the camera like this, to be so vulnerable in front of the camera like this. I do other stuff. I'm creative, so I've always felt more comfortable behind the scenes, except for when I'm teaching history. So yeah, I'm just creating a safe space for neurodivergent people. I will be centering Black and Afro indigenous peoples because there aren't many spaces for us. Not that I'm not inclusive of all people, which I am. I'm just centering my people because I can't speak from another perspective. I can only speak from my lived experience in this beautiful dark skin color that so many people seem to have a problem with, and I don't understand that. I don't understand discrimination. I don't understand racism. Life is about differences. We have differences in plants and animals and trees, and humans are no different. So I don't understand why the emphasis on differences and those differences being seen as bad things, especially when you're not harming anybody, right? You're not harming anybody being neurodivergent and living your life. So on this channel, I will speak on those experiences. So this first video will be how I got diagnosed, what led me to want to seek a diagnosis. So I've been in healthcare for like 30 years. And over the last, I would say 6 years or so, I've been working with people with disabilities. And so I had an individual who had autism, but more on the side that needs more support in males. So his frustrations with communications came out in a more testosterone-filled way. Punching walls, so on and so forth. So in order to help him, I started to deep dive and research more about what autism was, how it showed up, how it expressed itself in males, what's stemming. And in my research, everything led back to autism as a child, which was very difficult considering I was not dealing with a child, right? And I wasn't a parent of a child. So it's a child, a parent of a child, not much research about adults. And you will be hard pressed to find any research dealing with people of color and how it shows up, dealing with the fact that we deal with the racial abuse, right? So how does that show up in someone who's already dealing with the stress of racial abuse, which is what racism is, right? Racism is a symptom of a narcissistic personality disorder. So essentially, people like me are victims of narcissistic abuse, often called racism. So you will not find any studies on that. You will not find any literature on that intersection at all. Zero, zilch. And then you barely find anything when it comes to women. So I started to do a deep dive, and I started going back over my own childhood and noticing that when I was young, I used to rock a lot. I still rock. I'm not even gonna lie, I still rock. But I would just do this. I would rock. I love me a good rocking chair. I love me a rocking chair. I love me a hammock. Anything that rocks, I love it, right? I also like things that sparkle. Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. I actually made these. But if it sparkles, my brain lights up. People like, I want it. I like it. So anything that does that, right? He's making me lose my train of thought. So let me get back on task here. So I was doing a deep dive. What you got in your mouth? He is forever finding things to put in his mouth. He keeps me on my toes. So I was doing a deep dive about that. And I remember as a child, I had to suck my middle finger, and then this hand had to tap, 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 tap. And I was absolutely content with that. And of course, my parents tried everything to get me to stop sucking my finger, putting hot sauce on it, putting anything bitter they put on there to try to get me to stop. I didn't stop until I wanted to stop, right? So, and I used to sing. I used to stem what I know now as stemming with singing. I would sing so much, they would tell me to shut up, because I would just sing and sing and sing and sing and sing, right? I always enjoyed just being to myself and I never liked to really be around people that was my age, because I always had a thirst for knowledge. And so in my mind, it was like, why would I be around y'all when y'all know exactly what I know? I want to know more. So I always find myself being around elders, listening to their life experiences, wisdom, and stuff like that. I still love to be around elders that speak of their life experiences, right? So I just started noticing, and then my threshold for things that's illogical. My threshold for things that's illogical is very low, extremely low. I don't want to be a part of it, right? Or in friendships, like I just couldn't understand, and particularly friendships with women, only because, well, I would say neurotypical women, only because when I'm a solutions based. So if we're discussing relationships and you're complaining about your relationship, my brain is saying, okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? Let's solve this problem. What are you going to do? Like, I don't have the capacity to listen to the complaining and then no action is taken about the complaining. So that strained relationships with women, because I didn't understand the need for just coddling the emotion, but not ending with some sort of action, right? So of course, that's not going to work in neurotypical dynamics. So there's that. And then in my platonic relationships with men, it's more so, if the men find you attractive, they keep you around, right, and use you as your resource. Because one thing I would say about men, they are not confused about their boundaries at all. And they tend to stick to whatever those boundaries happen to be for them. It is us women who have been socially, here, you got to get down, socially programmed to not have boundaries, right? So anyway, started doing researching, started to see how, it sounded like I am autistic, right? So I went online and I did a multitude of self-assessments. And like, I'm thinking ADHD, right? I'm just really committed in my brain to ADHD, which I do have both. But I went online, I took the self-assessments. I scored, and it said some autistic traits. I was testing more ASD level 1 on the online free assessments, right? So I did those, and I waited like a month or so. This is getting on my nerves, not lined up correctly. But I waited a month or so because I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'm tripping, right? Maybe I had an off day. Because again, it was not on my radar. I was committed to one thing in my brain. So for me to switch to something else took time. Then I started saying, okay, well, how can I get this assessment done? And it was really difficult to find a place that would accept. What do you have? What do you got? It's for me to get assessed, right? Because everything was centered around children, right? So if you were not a child and you were trying to get assistance, it was very difficult. Okay, so I found a place, Prosper Health. The next barrier was I didn't have insurance, and it cost $950 for the assessment. So I'm thinking, what am I gonna do? I really need the assessment because I need workplace accommodations, because I've been trying this thing on my own, and unless I work by myself, it's very difficult for me to maintain employment with my communication style, right? But if I'm by myself, oh, I'm good. Let me do my own thing. Let me be autonomous. I love it in that space. So I was really at the point like, do I pay a bill or do I get assessed? And so I decided the bill had to wait. And I used Affirm, because they allow you to use Affirm, and I had to pay $500 down and finance $450. So that's what I did. It took 3 sessions, which was a total of about 3 weeks, with 3 sessions, and I got it done, and I had an amazing psychologist. Because you get to choose who you want. And my particular psychologist, I chose him because he's neurodivergent himself. He is queer and helps advocate for the queer community in inner cities. So I knew he got it, right? He understood. So because another barrier that people of color experience is the barrier of, will I be seen, right? Because when you're in a world where you are not seen, your attributes are seen, the things that you do are seen, but they're also stolen, taken, and colonized. But you as a human being is never seen. So when you're spending that much money, and when you have a cognitive challenge, you don't want to waste it not being seen. You don't want to waste it not having your concerns properly addressed. You don't want to waste it by someone diagnosing you with something that's easiest for them, such as depression and anxiety. And we all know that comes from being autistic or having ADHD, just navigating, right? You will typically have some form of depression or anxiety that comes with just navigating a world not meant for you. So that was extremely important to me, to be able to be seen for human first, right? I see myself as human, of course, but I can't control the brains of everybody. So that was important for me, and he in fact really did, because he understood it, because he has a lived experience, which is extremely, extremely important. So I just got my diagnosis, and now I'm trying to navigate what does that mean moving forward, and timing is everything. While I was going through my diagnosis, I literally got fired from my job because of the job's refusal to acknowledge neurodivergent ways, right? It was really insane. I cannot get into full details when it comes to that because I'm currently in litigation in regards to that. It's another thing we'll talk about on this channel, how to advocate for your rights, what to do when those rights are violated, versus sitting with that pain, because the world needs to understand that we are all not the same and that all of us deserve to have a life. I create things too. So this right here I created, and this is about disability rights, a flyer to explain, and another adapt. So I'm learning about accommodations, right? Accommodating myself. So they have these buttons. Give me 1 second. They have these buttons here that are on Amazon, and you know, typically people buy it for their children, but hey, we have to use what we can until we create something different.